and that's what we included in the 2015 budget. So we won't know that exact number until Wednesday, but we do have already in the budget 530 for the annual debt service.
Okay, so you guys already put it's
Yes, we
likely to
did.
go up or down, or?
It can, hopefully it won't go either way too much.
Okay, so this is in addition to your operating budget, correct?
It's part of the operating
Part of
budget,
it.
yes. And it's part of the one that you
Whatever-
already received.
Whatever you guys need to run the township, this would be on top of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Please call the roll.
Thank you, by the way.
Mr. D'Amelio?
No.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
No.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes.
Mr. Rector, thank you for your work.
Number 7, ordinance
thanks to
number
Mr. Walker.
P14, 2014.
Ordinance number P14, 2014, motion to adopt the second reading of ordinance P14, 2014 by authorizing traffic restrictions on the following highways: special purpose parking zones in front of 1716 Ridgeway Road, in front of 666 Dayton Road, stop intersections on the northwest corner of Lansdowne Road, 20 feet north of the intersection of East Park Road, stopping traffic on Lansdowne Road.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
And Mr. Oliva?
Yes. Number 8, ordinance number P15, 2014.
Mr. President, make a motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance number P15, 2014, amending the general laws of the Township of Haverford, Chapter 182, zoning section 105, zoning map, to rezone a portion of Delaware County tax parcel 2209-018843-00, and commonly known as 1315 Northup Road, Havertown, Pennsylvania, from R4 low to medium-density residential district to C3 general commercial district.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
If you recall, this has been through both the Planning Commission, the developer's made appearance before the Planning Commission, we've met with the residents, and this has to do with the development of the current Piazza Honda property at Vermont and Township Line.
Okay, everybody.
For the
Okay with that?
CVS.
All right.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes. Number 9, ordinance number P18, 2014.
It's Belvedere, which is Jim, I believe. Or
No, that's
Jane.
Jane.
Motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance number P18, 2014, establishing and amending traffic restrictions on the following highways. Sticker parking only on the 2300 block of Belvedere Avenue, both sides from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., beginning 140 feet south of West Eagle Road and conclude at Ralston Avenue. There is a,
I need a second.
thank you,
Second.
thank you. There's business at the corner right across from 7-Eleven, and they were granted a variance by the zoning hearing board for additional parking. So we needed to give the Belvedere residents the appropriate parking. We needed to move 140 feet in the permit parking. That's what this is.
Okay. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
And Mr. Oliva?
Yes. Number 10, ordinance number P19, 2014.
Ordinance P19, 2014, animals repellents, first reading. Motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance P19, 2014 by further amending and supplementing Chapter 49, animals.
Second.
Made and seconded.
This confuses me a little bit, but Lori's not here, right? So Mr. Gent.
I could fill in.
Oh, thank you.
This is in regards to animal repellent devices,
Right.
and similar products were being used well, they were not being used for their intended use, so we had to,
Oh.
we had to make an ordinance to give us some restriction.
So they were being
You
used
got to give
for,
us more information than that, come on.
they were
You leave me hanging
bothering
here.
people?
It's an active court case, so I really can't.
Oh,
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
It's very similar to the high-frequency devices
Okay,
that they use.
Like you put on the front of your car.
understood.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr.
I noticed-
D'Amelio?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes. Number 11, ordinance number P21, 2014.
Mr. President, I ask that we adopt the first reading of ordinance number P21, 2014, amending ordinance number 160, adopted on June 30 of 1986, known as the General Laws of the Township of Haverford, further amending Chapter 165, taxation, specifically relating to the business privilege tax, and we are amending Section 165.42 to specify specific fines related to failing to comply with the business privilege tax. Give me a second.
Second.
Our township manager and township finance director recommend that we make this change, and I believe our solicitor has reviewed the change, and it does not find any part of it offensive, and I recommend it be adopted.
Okay. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes. Number 12, ordinance number P22, 2014. Busy night for you, Mr. Holmes.
Mr. President, I would ask that we adopt the first reading of ordinance number P22, amending ordinance number 160, known as the General Laws of Township of Haverford, further amending Chapter 165, taxation. This relates to the mercantile tax, and it is a very similar amendment to Section 165.28. And I should add, one of the provisions of this amendment, it's not to increase the fine, but it is to remove from the remedies the violator spending time in the county jail for up to 30 days. I do think
Second.
it is a good, thanks.
Second that.
It is a good modern move for us to remove jail terms from people who can't pay fines. It's a move sweeping the nation, actually, right now, as there's been a kind of a dangerous return to debtor's prison in some states, and so I'm pleased that our township is making these changes, and I recommend that we adopt them.
That was in the other ordinance also.
That was in the other ordinance as well.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel.
So we vote for this, we're keeping you out of jail for 30 days, right, Larry?
Got it.
Okay.
Yep. Now, that might be a conflict of interest, so maybe I should sit this one out.
All right. Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes. 13, healthcare.
Personnel or?
Mr. President, I would move we authorize the township manager on behalf of our township to enter into the business associate agreement with Gallagher Benefits Services effective January 1, 2015.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Larry?
Aye.
Yes, obviously, this is, the township is actually, for years, been part of the Gallagher, which is a consortium of municipal governments within Delaware County that actually do our rates, go out to the Blue Cross Blue Shield, gets our rates for us. We are that, we'll be joining hands with the school, all the school districts as well to make our bargaining group more powerful. By doing that, our rates for our insurance are going to be below 3%, correct, Amy? Yep. And for Blue Cross, that's not prescription. And if we don't, it'll exceed 7.5%. So pretty much a no-brainer.
And this is a two-step process. We enter into the business associate agreement, and then we enter into the purchase agreement. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and this is similar to the move we first made to enter into this consortium, which had an immediate benefit to us as well as a long-term benefit. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I apologize. Who seconded that?
Which one?
Larry's.
Jane. The other one?
Oh,
was me.
Larry.
He did, yeah.
Somebody did.
We did it simultaneously,
Okay.
so either one.
All right, call the roll?
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
And Mr. Oliva?
Yes.
And we also, now I move within the same topic, to adopt resolution number 1956 of 2014, authorizing the township manager on behalf of Haverford Township to enter into a 3-year renewable purchase agreement with the Delaware County Public Schools Healthcare Trust, effective January 1, 2015.
Second.
Motion made, seconded.
For the reasons described by our township manager, this is the second necessary step for us to improve our bargaining position and therefore get the best possible rates in our health benefit structure. And I recommend that we adopt this resolution.
Okay. You call the roll? Yeah.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes. Number 14, continuation of citizen forum for non-agenda items.
Good talk again.
Anyone on this side would like to speak? Okay. Name and address?
Stacy O'Leary, 109 Tenby Road. Can you hear this?
Yeah, what did you say? What was the address?
109 Tenby.
10910. Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to speak about 101 Tenby Road. And it struck me about what was discussed this evening regarding 16 Landillo. It's wonderful for the neighborhood what's happening. I heard about it and I was so pleased, and so were all the neighbors. And I think in talking about 101 Tenby, it's worth noting both the similarities and differences of the two properties. When I think about the similarities, both are iconic properties, they're historic in significance, their uniqueness to Haverford Township, and particularly the importance of the Lanark neighborhood. When you look at the differences, one is a rehab and the other is a demolition. One is preserving the carbon footprint and the other is increasing impervious surfaces, expanding the carbon footprint, and adding to pollution, congestion, everything else that we've talked about before. One has no opposition from the neighbors that I'm aware of, and the other has over 200 signatures on a petition and almost 400 Facebook likes on our Save 101 Facebook page, Save 101 Tenby. So in closing, I'd like to read from an excerpt from a blog written by the realtor, John Ryan, just 2 years ago. Rehabs, great value. I want to take time to outline some of the really great advantages of finding a quality done rehab. First of all, what makes a quality rehab? He says the mechanicals should be completely replaced. He says that drop ceilings on top of plaster and paneling should be removed. The structure of an old house should be evaluated and reinforced if necessary. A lot of old homes have questionable structure, and sometimes simple posts and beams can help level out some wavy situations. The rest is cosmetics, quality cabinets, quality countertops, etc. Second, what are the advantages? Lower taxes than new construction with a lot of the same qualities, an established neighborhood, home with some history and character, value retention, as everything new here and there are no projects to be done. I enjoy the sense of salvaging a tired property. By John Ryan, 2 years ago. Thank you.
Okay. Next row. I know this lady.
Good evening, Christine Farris, Director of the Haverford Township Library. And this evening, Commissioners, I would like to invite you and the public to come to a couple of very important events at the library. One is on Friday, November the 15th at 12:30 p.m., a Medicare open enrollment informational session. As open enrollment ends on December 7th, we have the answers for the people who are needing that service. And I would also like you to join us for the first ever harp concert at the library on Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m., Sunday, November 16th. Mary Ann Meyer, who is a harpist with the Baltimore Symphony, will play at the library. So thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else in the fourth row? Anyone else on this side? Go ahead.
Andrea E. Smith, 102 Landiff Road. There was just a couple things that I wanted to clarify. Mr. Byrne, you had said that the owner of the home is here, and I respectfully would like to correct you on that. The owner of the home is not here. Mr. Fuller's here, and he will be settling on the home on the 17th, but the actual owner is not here today and was not here at any point in the evening. And one of the reasons that we did come forward, knowing that you might not be able to help in this moment, but we look forward to your assistance in the future, is because time is of the essence. They are looking to settle on the 17th, and as much as we would like this to obviously benefit the neighbors, because we live there and we will have to live with this property if it's erected every single day, we also don't want Mr. Fuller, who's settling on the 17th, to get into a position where it turns out he can't build what he thought he could build. So it's not just for our benefit, it's also for theirs, because we don't want to see anyone get into that position. We want someone who wants that home, who genuinely wants to do something with that home. And in light of the new information that I've presented all of you, we are not sure that they can do what they want on that property. And also, on November 17th, the Haverford Township Historic Commission is hosting a meeting with the community, which will include the Community Preservation Coordinator, as well as the County Planning Commission, to help our neighborhood to see how we can lay a conservation district, what other options we have to help protect it. And again, that's kind of incongruent to the fact that this home will be settling on the 17th, and I think that's one of the reasons I just felt the need to clarify with you why we come before you today and to implore for your help, if not today, then hopefully in the future. And obviously, we've hired an attorney to also help us in this matter, but I just wanted you to really, truly feel and understand the urgency of this situation. And again, not just for us, but for the builder. We want someone there who can, who really wants the home, and for the builder to work somewhere where he can work unencumbered and move ahead commercially viable places. Thank you so much for your time again.
This side? Anyone? All right. There being no one, we will begin new business.
Mr. President, the agenda indicates that we're going to continue from the October 14 meeting discussing the zoning hearing board. I'd like to, I'll state, I was not here at the October meeting where this was discussed and a resolution was passed by this board. I did watch the meeting, watched it on Commissioner Siegel's excellent website where he has all the videos of the meetings. And I would ask that we place on the agenda right now, I would move that we pass a resolution repealing last month's resolution, and I would then, if I get a second, explain why I would like to repeal that.
Second.
The resolution to
begin televising the zoning board
zoning
hearings.
meetings.
I watched the meeting, and I'd like everybody to look at their watch and note the time and place. I would have voted with Commissioner D'Amelio and Commissioner McGarity and Commissioner Connell on that issue. We have no business telling the zoning board how it should conduct its hearings. I have to remind everybody on this board, our role with the zoning board is limited to very narrow circumstances. Once a year, we appoint one of them to a 5-year term. Every year we budget them to do their job, and at every single hearing they conduct, we are an interested party. That's it. That is the only involvement we have with the zoning board. And right now there seems to be some There's, there seems to be a great deal of concern on this board about zoning board decisions. We have appealed 2 of them in 2014. Just for the purpose of this argument, let's just pretend they did 100 before that we did not appeal. The steps we took last week do more harm to those 100 decisions that we like that the zoning board made than these 2 decisions that right now the township has a problem with. Okay, one of the biggest concerns when somebody's in front of the zoning board is whether that zoning board is acting independently. So when this board spends a half an hour discussing how it represents the public and the public want this and the public want that, the answer from us has to be to the public, go to the zoning board hearing and tell them that. Stand outside of the zoning board and hold pickets, and say, we want these zoning boards televised. We have no business telling them how to do that. It is better for us as a township that we stay out of their business so that when they make decisions that we do like, there is no danger that those decisions were driven by any political pressure from this board. So the best thing we can do right now is understand we were all working under, we're all heated about a couple decisions here, but I asked this board to repeal that resolution and leave to the zoning board its own business of running its own meetings and leave to us our job, which is to appoint somebody once a year, to represent the township in any appeal or any decision in front of that board as an interested party, and to budget and pay for their work. So that's my point. I invite the solicitor to advise this board as to whether the repeal of that resolution is the right thing for us to do. I've got nothing further to say on the matter.
Good.
Mr. President.
Go ahead.
First, let me bring historical perspective to Mr. Holmes's unfortunate, I will say, misapprehension of my resolution. I have been saying for years, not related to any of the recent zoning matters, other than it was brought up at last month's meeting by a citizen, that the citizens of this township have not only the ability, but they should have the right to see what happens at all township meetings. The purpose of televising, whether it's the zoning board, we've discussed it with other boards. I've been raising for years the fact that our committees are supposed to issue minutes, and to this date, we still don't see minutes. This township, as open as this board has come, still has a way to go. The misapprehension here is that I have been asking for years that we televise the zoning board and I believe the planning commission, not because I may agree or disagree with any particular vote, but because the citizens who fund both us and the zoning board have a right to see government in action. We are not taking any action, nor would I ever suggest that we do so, that has any impact on how any of us feel with zoning board matters. I regularly would never attend zoning board meetings because I don't want to have the perspective that I may be prejudiced by what I may say at a zoning board hearing, and other commissioners can go and say or not as they please. The purpose of this is transparency. And those meetings are vitally important to residents. The zoning board over the years, yes, now we've heard about Walgreens. They have addressed billboards. They have addressed issues that matter to residents in this township. And all we authorized was to have the same person or someone similar who sits in this room and films these meetings to do the same thing with the zoning board, not to raise issues as to how the zoning board conducts itself. Under the state law, the zoning board not only is expected to, but it sets its own rules, it appoints its own solicitor, and we are doing nothing, nor should we, nor have I ever suggested that we do anything relating to the zoning board other than we use our power to appoint its members, which has nothing at all to do with televising those meetings. So I strenuously disagree because this type of thing, by not showing those meetings, is directly contrary to what not only happens in other communities, such as Springfield, where Mr. Byrne is a solicitor, but is contemplated in the municipal code that talks about that the residents can expect that zoning boards and those types of meetings may be televised. There is nothing that says it shouldn't. We televise the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, which God knows right now is probably the biggest has raised issues of its propriety. I'll leave it at that for those who aren't aware of what has gone on with the Pennsylvania Supreme Court in the last couple weeks. We televise the Commonwealth Court. We televise the Superior Court. We televise meetings of all types, not because televising them means that someone is going to influence them, but because the public has a right to know, and they have a right to know this, and I think you are completely wrong on this. And we rarely disagree, but I couldn't disagree more.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mr. Siegel, Mr. President, if I may. There's very little of what you just said, Mr. Siegel, that I disagree with. There's just one fundamental issue, and that is that the 9 of us are not regular citizens. The 9 of us are commissioners, and as the 9 of us, we have special powers and can create special harm when we are dealing with situations involving the zoning board. So any member of the public in Haverford Township can say to the zoning board, you should publish these meetings. But when this board speaks, it is impossible for us to sever our role as a member of this board as opposed to just being a concerned citizen, because the effect that we could have on the ability to make the zoning board process and the zoning board decisions fair is much different than the effect that an angry mob can have, that a huge room full of people who all have problems one way or another with the decision they're making. And that's a problem, and that's a problem you, Mr. Siegel, have recognized, and you don't appear at zoning board hearings, and nor do I, for exactly the purpose that we don't ever want to be appearing to be influencing the zoning board other than officially as members of this board or as the entire township when we send our solicitor there. So if you ask me, and I'm not a commissioner, I'll walk into the zoning board hearing and say, you people should put these on TV, but it's the zoning board's decision. And when we pass resolutions, and I've said this before about other things we do, we are advocating. And we have the power as a board of commissioners to advocate a lot more strongly with a much bigger fist and a much larger hammer than other people can. And we have got to be careful about doing that when it calls into question whether or not the zoning board is going to just make decisions and make decisions fairly without influence from us. That's why I think the resolution be repealed. I'm not saying strike the record. I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. I'm saying as a board we should never act like that unless we are appealing a decision, something we have the right to do under the law, or unless we're appealing as interested parties. But other than that, we should not be commenting on this stuff, and that includes passing resolutions telling them how to conduct their hearings.
Mr. Byrne, financially, could the zoning hearing board determine on their own that they want to televise meetings if we don't pass something that would allow them?
If you take a look at the MPC, it's section 906C and 907. 906C says that the zoning hearing board should make its own policies and procedures, and it should run its own hearings the way that they see fit. 907 talks about the expenditures that would be paid for clerks and for other things that they might need to carry out their business. So in this instance, as what would happen would be that the zoning hearing board, if they determined that they wanted to put their hearings on TV, they would make that decision themselves, make that part of their policy and procedure, and then they would come to this board to say, well, we need to pay the person who's going to be operating the camera, so could we have permission of this board, the Board of Commissioners, to fund that?
So by us voting for them to televise, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to televise it.
They don't have
But if we don't vote for them to televise it, they have no way of funding the filming of it.
Well, they could come to you and ask you for it.
But if it's not in the budget,
then I don't know how they would, no, they would not be able to fund it. I mean, they would,
Right.
yeah.
I appreciate your questions, but if the point of that is to go back and watch last week's meeting, and all we were doing was making it easier for the zoning board to televise its hearings, that's not what happened. That's not what happened at that meeting. At that meeting, this board made a 5-3 decision that the zoning board should televise its meetings, and that's what I have a problem with.
Okay, Commissioner Siegel.
I just want to respond on one thing. We are, the suggestion that by televising meetings, we are influencing the zoning board, to me, it makes no sense. The fact that I watch the zoning board, that I watch PCN and see what our legislators are doing in Harrisburg has no influence. You know, what the impact of cameras can be when people sort of play for the cameras, which happens with everybody. But that does not mean that we are influencing them. The purpose that I have been pushing, and the reason that you can cite my website and everything else, is that we need a community that is open. And all I suggested and proposed, as I have, it came up last month because a citizen suggested